when comes the moment that actually the family moves to the States?
Yes, so this was like we're entering the late 80s.
Okay.
It's important to note we lived in the West Bank, and the first Intifada was starting. At the same time, my dad's brother was starting a business in Miami, Florida, and they were just debating about staying versus going.
Correct.
And he decided to just, again, my dad several times in his life made some pretty crazy moves.
Big decisions. And at what age were you at the time?
I was 10 years old.
I came to the States in 1978 at the peak of the military junta, where we had 30,000 people disappear at the hands of the government. I didn't belong to a political party. I didn't do any drugs. I wasn't into anything. I just had long hair and played electric guitar. And I was in jail since I was 17 so many times, just for 24 hours. 3 days was the most that I was, because they couldn't prove anything. So basically they put you in jail supposedly to check your record, to see if you were involved in something. They had that, they could do that, you know what I mean?
And you're already a musician by then.
Of course, and even when they took me, they knew who I was, so it made it even more perverse, you know? I was lucky that I didn't, I never got hurt. So I actually came from a very violent situation too. I can imagine coming from there how difficult must have been. And how was it when you arrived here? Because you were coming already with all these dreams and the comics and all that stuff.
That year when we arrived is maybe the most influential year of my life, but also the most traumatic year of my life.
The first year is the worst.
I guess I'd talk about the influence. Like I remember we landed in New York, and at first my parents told me we're going on vacation. So they didn't even tell me we're potentially leaving the country forever. And this will,
which probably makes sense. 10 years old, they didn't want to just
they didn't want to shock me. But I didn't get to say bye to my friends, because then a vacation turned into permanently staying here. So I felt a sort of betrayal that my parents didn't trust me with this information.
And at that point, also growing up and stuff, you blame, your parents are, everything, so if they made a mistake, it's like, wow,
And to this day, I talk about it with my parents, and like that idea of lying to your kids to try to protect them is very much in The Last of Us. Like that's been ingrained in me.
I was going to say, what a lie,
So we landed in New York, and we're staying at my parents' cousin's place. And they had kids, but the kids were not home. And this is the first time I've seen a Nintendo. Because in Israel, again, it just wasn't very common. It was all PC games. So there was a Nintendo, the first Nintendo system, an NES, and a bunch of games that my brother and I have never played. So we're like, oh my God, this is like a treasure trove. So we go game by game by game by game, and just like playing it for like 10 minutes to like half an hour, then switching to another game.
This is like the first time that you...
The first time I've ever played a Nintendo.
And the first moment they actually get hold of the games and start...
Get a controller and play with a console. And there's one game where like, that game was really cool. And we go back to this one.
To that one,
And we just, again, not knowing anything. And I don't know like which game is popular or not. I don't know any of these games. I know nothing about them. And then turns out one game we kept coming back to that was just brilliant was Super Mario Brothers.
Right.
And it just shows the brilliance of that game, that without any hype, without any commercials or anything, it was just that good.
Exactly. That's when something is that, in a way, what I always say about, The Last of Us, in the sense that, it's not, you can't feel it like a remake or something. It's a great story. It's like a Shakespearean story. You can do it on stage, you can do it on film, you can do it in animation, you can do it as a puppet piece. It's a great story, and that's what it is,
I'm curious, right? Because you've done a lot of art and music and collaborated on like so many amazing projects. The Last of Us just being one of them. How do you deal with success? Meaning, when someone comes to you and says, "Hey,"
that was one of the questions I was going to ask you.
I'm glad I'm asking you first. Like, when someone comes to you and is like, "Hey, this piece of music," like when I came to you, I'm like, "Oh my God, Motorcycle Diaries!" The soundtrack to that just blew my mind. It was so beautiful.
Yes.
How do you accept those compliments? I find it really hard to say when someone's like, "Oh my God, The Last of Us is brilliant." I'm like, I kind of look down and just, "Oh, thank you." I don't know how to take it.
I know. I feel a little bit like that, absolutely. But also, I am totally aware that I'm not totally responsible for what I do. So I know that there's something else that I connect with that I can't take credit for it, you know, and that's in a more deeper level, you know, and also in a way, even if it's not that, but whatever I am as an artist and stuff, also has been the result of working with other people, learning from other people and stuff. So I mean, I see artists. I mean, I'm doing this professionally since I was 17 years old. So I've seen artists that they get an award, for example, and they think they're giving it to them. And actually, you know, the award is given it to the work.
Right.
You know, and the work is the result of not only you, is the result of also of a team, is the result of a lot of people and things that you did prior to get to that point with other people that gave you things, and also is something that any artist that is honest has to say. There's a moment that you connect with something that is impossible to explain,
Yeah.
and
impossible to predict.
And that's why I believe also in I really believe when sometimes, you know, this is a question I'm going to give to you too, when I'm going to ask, what would you say to somebody that is starting, you know, that wants to, you know, do this? And the first thing that I said, you have to have a discipline of work. You know, I love that Picasso phrase, I hope inspiration finds me working, right? You know, so I don't believe to be sitting down and waiting, you know, that you get, a great idea. You know, I believe, and sometimes they happen like that, like the Last of Us theme, just boom, you know. And sometimes, you know, you work a whole day and really nothing, you know, major happens, but then there's a moment that you connect. And that moment is different than the 5 minutes ago.
Right.
And it's not only you. So that's I always remember that, and I'm always grateful of that. So
yeah, that's a really wonderful point. Which is especially right. What I do is like I work with hundreds of people.
Correct.
That I try as much as possible to share the credit with everybody that has done it. I know that it's bigger than anything I could have done on my own.
Absolutely.
And it's also like all the inspirations, right? All these movies and games and books and things that I've read, Last of Us wouldn't exist without that history of art
Absolutely.
that came before it.
Absolutely. And that leads me to the question, is there anything that you can recognize that is something that really inspired or that you drew inspiration? I know from many things, but there's something or even a scene from something that you say, this really triggers something in me.